Popular science was a trending topic in media outlets during the industry's decline. Content providers entertain consumers with articles supported by empirical, anecdotal, and other types of evidence. Empirical evidence is information validated and trusted by a scientific community. Researchers and the academic community report empirical evidence and scholarly research. Researchers use a specific scientific method to retrieve empirical evidence. An example of empirical evidence is trustworthy information retrieved during a study on a real-world event. A real-world event is resource intensity. The resource intensity of the newspaper industry declined when the industry declined. Paper demands declined due to changes in media markets. Specifically, demands for paper reduced as traditional media markets and newspaper coverage declined. Researchers published information in books, journals, and documents. For example, documents published by doctorates, such as dissertations, were physical media. Currently, people can publish trustworthy and credible content in various digital platforms. The Education Information Resource Center, also known as ERIC, is a platform managed by the Department of Education. The website lists dissertations published nationally in physical and digital formats. People can also access peer-reviewed journals and scientific research in the website. The website is a comprehensive body of knowledge based on educational resources and information. Some academic researchers must use specific standards and methods to conduct research on humans. An institutional review board can authorize or restrict research based on human test subjects. In 2024, the following statement was added in an article titled Ethical Guidelines and the Institutional Review Board. Quote, the IRB is vital to the research process and benefits both the researchers and the participants. It is a scientific community that reviews research protocol. The main purpose of IRBs is to protect the rights and welfare of study participants by ensuring that research is ethical and those studies procedures are conducted in a way that is respectful of participants. IRBs review proposal research studies to assess whether the risks to participants are minimized and reasonable in relation to the anticipated benefits. In addition, IRBs ensure that adequate informed consent is obtained from all participants. End of quote. This is in regards to a 2016 article provided by Gilliam. Researchers must fulfill a rigorous review before receiving permission from the IRB. The person proposing the study must receive a certification from the Collaborative Institutional Training Initiative, better known as CITI. The CITI program for human subjects research is information on ethics and standards honored by professionals. CITI provided a statement about human subject research. Quote, human subjects research content is organized into two tracks, biomedical and social, behavioral, educational. They are intended for anyone involved in research studies with human subjects or who have responsibilities for setting policies and protocols with respect to such research, including institutional review boards, HSR, Biomed, and SBE courses are offered as comprehensive and foundation versions. End of quote. Researchers can perform human subject research or non-human subject research. An example of non-human subject research is a study on natural capital. In 2025 and 2003, Enroth, Johansson, and Moberg published an article titled Environmental Indicators in the Newspaper Industry. Authors of the 2003 article provided the following statement. Quote, environmental indicators promote the eco-efficient development of companies as demonstrated in earlier study. This study builds on a previously developed model and inventory tools for industry-specific environmental indicators for the graphic arts industry. This study is based on case studies from 14 newspaper companies' experience of the use of these industry-specific environmental indicators in actual production. This paper presents data on industry-specific environmental indicators for the newspaper industry. End of quote. An example of human subject research is the article Daniels provided in 2024 titled Times of Turmoil, Short and Long-Term Effects of Organizational Change on Newsroom Employees. The following statement is an abstract in the study. Quote, period of major transformation is forcing news organizations to adapt and change. This study provides a logarithmical analysis of the effects of organizational changes and change management efforts at CNN Headline News on newsroom employees' attitudes, morale, and likelihood of quitting their jobs. The study found that for newsroom managers, organizational change was a losing proposition, resulting in staff members' perception of greater unhappiness with their jobs. Newsroom employees were most negative about changes they thought hindered their abilities to produce high-quality journalism, and change management efforts had only limited impact on job satisfaction and commitment. End of quote. The focus in popular science articles is content relative to technology, engineering, and design. An example of popular science is biomimicry. The theory of biomimicry establishes the framework for technology and engineering designs. Plants, animals, nature, and wildlife inspire designers of innovative goods and services. Media markets publish popular science to retain the consumer's interest. In contrast, some researchers publish studies to add new knowledge in a body of research. Media outlets honor fact building, whereas researchers build new knowledge in a body of research. Media journalists can provide fact-based evidence of events. However, journalists, editors, and publishers do not conduct a rigorous process similar to the process of publishing scholarly research. Media outlets do not prescribe to central guidelines, standards, or review boards. Journalists honor due diligence of reporting and ethically sourced information. However, some journalists and reporters integrate empirical and anecdotal evidence in their articles. Consider geopolitical topics. People reference different sources to defend their beliefs. Regarding popular science, people reference anecdotal and empirical evidence to validate their work. The human impact on the environment is a geopolitical topic. Some people believe resource dependency is not an environmental externality. Citizens concerned for the environment believe paper production impacts the environment. Journalists can share their beliefs and personal opinions. A diagnosis, prognosis, or observation differs from a personal opinion. Objectivity differentiates the reputation of content providers. People purchase or avoid specific outlets due to their brand awareness. Some brands are conducive to an organization's bottom line. Stakeholders and organizational behaviors can shape consumer demands. In February of 2025, Folk and Flick reported an event involving the Washington Post. Quote, more than 75,000 digital subscribers to the Washington Post have canceled since the owner, billionaire, Amazon founder, Jeff Bezos, announced on Wednesday that he would radically overhaul the paper's opinion pages to reflect libertarian priorities and to exclude opposing points of view. Wednesday's announcement led to the immediate resignation of opinions editor David Shipley. He had vainly sought to persuade Bezos to drop the plans, according to a person with direct knowledge. Shipley did not respond to the request for comment. End of quote. The author referenced the source of information. However, readers cannot validate the claim. Journalists and reporters establish trust by building credibility. Someone can question the intent of news reporters and journalists. Consider the 2024 article by Zilber titled Washington Post loses 250,000 or 10% of subscribers over decision not to endorse Kamala Harris. The New York Times reported more than 250,000 Washington Post readers or 10% of the newspaper customer base have canceled their subscriptions after owner Jeff Bezos blocked his editorial board from publishing an endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris, according to a report. Scholarly researchers must provide evidence of their claims.